Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr and welcome to another Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Yes, I am wearing a beanie and I'm aware I probably look ridiculous, but my hair has grown to a point of complete lack of control, so I'm going to wear it for as long as I can. Now Guy is the character that's going to be coming out next for Dissidia, and he's been written off by a lot of players. Basically if you have a certain other character you just don't even need to look at this one, but I don't think it's quite as simple as that. It's a fair amount as simple as that, but it's not quite as simple as that. So if you'd like to learn more about Guy, his event, and all the stuff that comes along with him, then of course, as always, stay tuned and keep on watching. Now before we get started, of course don't forget to check out all of the social media links in the description box below, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord and Patreon. Twitch, I'll obviously be streaming every event for Dissidia Opera Omnia as it comes out, as well as my static streams for things like Super Smash Bros, Final Fantasy XIV, and of course my Final Fantasy Count-Up. Now I do have a charity drive going on at the moment, as a stream that I'm going to be doing later on in the month, where I'll be streaming 19 hours of Chrono Trigger as a streaming 19 hours against COVID-19 to help the British Red Cross, aiding those who have been affected by the global pandemic. However, I do need to change the date on it slightly to the 27th of February, so the day before the end of the month, because I realised after putting it at the 23rd of February that the community stream is probably going to be the night before, so that's going to make for a very, very sleepless night or two for me if I do it that way. So I've adjusted the date to be slightly later so that it's going to be the last Saturday of this month, so apologies for any inconvenience caused on that front, but I would love for you guys to check out the link in the description box below if you'd like to know more about that fundraiser. Of course, with Patreon, I always shout out one of my patrons every time I release a video, and today that person is going to be Orbican, who, as you can see through their title card, is a fan of Final Fantasy XI, which sadly I've never had the joy of playing. Now, if you'd like a title card just like Orbican has, as well as other benefits like voice chats with myself or taking part in the Would You Pull portion of the videos, then perhaps consider becoming a patron yourself. And then obviously don't forget to check out all of the links around me in the description box below for other resources for Opera Omnia, and don't forget to check out all the other content creators out there other than me. So first things first, as always, let's take a look at the banner itself, what we can expect from the banner, and therefore Guy being the featured character on it. So the banner is going to be another opportunity and the last opportunity to get Ramses Burst if you don't already have it, but obviously it doesn't feature the rest of his kit. Being a new character, it's going to feature everything for Guy, so his EX, his LD, his 1535, etc. And then the sort of bonus characters along for the ride are going to be Auron and Sync with just their EX and their basic weapons as well. Now Auron and Sync weren't particularly commonly pulled for characters when they came out, but they're not bad. Like Auron in particular was a late bloomer in the EX Plus era, so if you haven't got these characters, they might be nice to fill in gaps, but they're not anything to massively write home about. Now Guy is commonly compared to another character in the roster for multiple reasons in Gao. Now both of these characters are Earth Enchant Imperilers at the first and foremost, that's their primary function, and they're both defensive based characters, but where Gao is all about counter-attacking and sort of batterying and healing through his counter-attacks and being quite passive during his own turns, Guy is instead designed to be more of a bruiser type character and more of a traditional tank where he locks enemies to himself and reduces damage that the party and he takes, so that you're basically preemptively taking less damage as opposed to taking the damage and then lashing back out afterwards. So to go through his attacks individually, Earth Smash is a 5-hit Earth Brave HP attack with a single AoE Bravery, single target HP, and it also heals the party for up to 25% after everything is said and done with the passives, etc. And any excess HP is converted to Bravery, as is the case with many other characters of a similar type. And then you also get a buff to him, a frame buff called Gaia's Protection, which is attack up to him, Brave regen for the party, and it also gives him access to a healing, Brave, and HP plus. And this actually does get stronger once you've got all of his gear, like his EX, his LD, etc. So it's actually a 2-hit Brave HP attack that has HP healing attached to it. And again, like most of his kit, it's all Earth-based. And then looking at Warcry, Warcry is a 4-hit AoE Earth Brave HP attack with split HP damage that again heals the party. It also gives all enemies get locked onto him, and it also grants him the Wild Instinct buff. Now this is a stacking buff, like we've seen with many other characters before, and it also basically raises max bravery to the party for every level that it's got. It also means that he takes less damage. He takes less bravery damage, 40%, which is quite significant significant amount, and it also raises the party's attack as well. So it does do quite, or raises his attack and MMA Max Bravery as well. It's useful, like I said, it's like HP, like, well, bravery damage down means you're taking less HP damage in total. It all just comes together nicely to make it so that you're just taking less damage. It's not the hardest hitting move in the world, but it's decent. And then we move on to his EX, which is Gaia Rumble. Now, once you've put everything into this, you get a 3-hit AoE Brave HP attack that is hitting 3 times, and then you also get the Earth Resist down from this attack, and this is fantastic for obvious reasons because it goes with the fact that he enchants the party with Earth, and the buff that comes from this, which is Gaia's Herculean Strength, also is the party-wide Earth enchant. And you also start with your EX gauge maxed out, which is actually really good for any character because it means you're waiting for less time to get hold of the next time you're getting the EX. And given that it's quite a slow recast rate, and the fact that you're getting a free skill off of it as well, longevity is not an issue for Guy, really. Like, you're going to be able to use this very, very frequently. You also start with Gaia's Herculean Strength, Gaia's Protection, and Wild Instinct, like 2 levels of it, and because you get a free skill, you'll then want to use Warcry as your first skill so that you're getting more levels of it, and you're getting that lock straight away. So basically, it just hits really hard. He's quite a passive character. He's actually very straightforward, but that doesn't make him bad. Like, because he's got multiple HP dumps in his EX and his LD, as we'll see shortly, he'll benefit from characters that have things like Brave HP up, or Brave Damage up, HP Damage up, etc. Any percentage-based thing, like Balthea or Dark Knight Cecil, anything like that, he will benefit from. And then lastly, his LD attack is Gaia Swing. Now, Gaia Swing is, again, after you've put all the boards and everything into it, you actually get 3 HP attacks off of this instead of 2. So it's a multiple HP dump. Sadly, his EX and his LD is still split damage, which is kind of at this point in time. Given that, like, when splash damage comes into things with HP ups and stuff like that, it becomes multiplicative. So split damage on everything is kind of sad to see. And it also gives Earth Resist down again, just like his EX attack does as well. But it also gives him another frame buff called Solid Body, which is party attack up by 20%, defense up by 80%, and reduce party's HP damage by 30%. Now, we've seen with characters like Gladio, etc., how useful this kind of thing can be. And so, like I said, Guy takes a more passive role than Gao does. Like, he's just auras that are, I take less damage. Gao is more reactive. Gao is, I'm going to take this damage, but I'm going to try and recover it back by counter-attacking you, etc. And you get 4 uses of this, which isn't bad. Like, the fact that you get, like, Earth Resist down, he's got the Earth Imperial, or the Earth Enchant off of his EX, which you start the fight with maxed out, so you're going to consistently have the Earth Enchant up at all times. He's nice. Like, there's nothing outwardly wrong with Guy. There's nothing really wrong with him, but he doesn't shine in his roles like certain other characters do. Like, where Gladio has the HP damage reduction and also has, obviously, Impulse and his cover and his own counterattacks, he obviously has his own niche. Warrior of Light has the shields as his niche. Gao has the counterattacking as his niche within the Earth Enchant Imperialer. Guy is a nice alternative to Gao. If you don't have Gao and you want access to Earth Enchant Imperil, then Guy is actually a really strong character. But by and large, a lot of players are probably not going to pull for Guy if they already have Gao, because they both have very similar roles within your team. Like, they're both very defensively oriented, they both have Enchant Imperil. Ironically, they actually work relatively well together, but you wouldn't really, it's unnecessary to take 2 Enchant Imperilers, certainly where they both have such defensive roles, because you've got to be able to deal damage with your party. And because Guy's damage is all split damage, his damage is fine, but it could be better. And I think that people are going to overlook Guy because a lot of people have kind of, like, pointed out his flaws and, like, the fact that he doesn't bring the damage along quite as much as some other characters do. But he can do quite a lot just by standing there. Like, he's one of these more passive characters. You're taking a lot less bravery damage. He has lock at all times, and because he has, like, free skill every time he uses his EX, you're going to use Warcry a lot, so he's got to constantly have the lock on, and you're taking less damage all told. He does actually do quite a lot, so I wouldn't just write him off straight away, even if you do have Gao. In terms of all the, like, leftover bits, like his calls, etc., his LD call is actually quite nice. Like, it's got the, like, triple HP dump, it's got all of that good stuff. It has Earth Resist down, which you know, if you're using Xander, it could come in handy. But realistically, if you're using a character that needs Earth Resist down, you're probably putting them in your party, and it's probably Guy or Gal. And you also get the defense and HP damage taken, like, you get defense up and HP damage taken down, which is actually a pretty good thing to have on call. Like, you don't get it for very long, you only get it for 3 turns, but that could save you in certain situations if you think you're awaiting a large attack on the, like, kind of coming in. And then his Earth Smash regular call ability is his skill 1, so you're going to get a bit of healing off of it, you're going to get the bravery gen off of it from that. It's nice to have access to, but much like a lot of Guy stuff, like, it's nice, it's never necessary. Like, apart from his own Lufenia, which requires earth damage, and earth damage is very few and far between, it's never something you outwardly need. He's just got a lot of nice things about him. And then when it comes to his high armor, it's party attack, it's the same as Ramza's, and honestly, I probably wouldn't go for this, purely because I don't think that a Guy benefits all that much from it, because that extra damage, like bravery damage cap, isn't going to do a lot on split damage attacks. It doesn't actually add all that much. And the party attack by 5%, like, I mean, I decided not to go for Ramza's, so mainly because I just don't particularly like this type of armor, and I've been functioning absolutely fine without it, so if I wasn't going to buy it for Ramza, I'm certainly not going to buy it for Guy. And then artifacts-wise, he's going to want attack, because everybody wants attack, let's be honest, and he has a C50 that increases his attack and his max bravery, so his artifacts are kind of a given. So now let's have a look at the event that's going to come along with Guy and his Lufenia mission, and this fight is going to be against 2 Rage Gators. Now, the Rage Gators, much like Guy, are very simple and straightforward, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're easy. They can actually be really nasty. They have a lot of really mean attacks. They have instant breaks, they have HP poison debuffs, and they put up an aura at 80%, 50%, and 30% damage HP. I believe that's correct me if I'm wrong. That basically makes it go, it's not even, it doesn't actually do anything to them except go, my next few turns are going to really hurt you, because they do like all brave HP attacks with double HP attacks, so Last Stand's not going to be much help for you here, and then they just keep going with HP after HP after HP. So tanking, for obvious reasons, given that it's Guy's event, is going to be very necessary. Now, in terms of the Lufenia orb, the orb doesn't actually start, you don't actually start the fight with one. It turns up at just under 80% HP, and then it disappears at like under half health, and then it comes back again at 30% HP, or just under, until they die. But the turn counts for these are very strict. So it starts at 10, and then the second time it comes back, it starts at 5. And the way to push it back is that any earth damage you deal is going to increase the turn counter by 2. Now, for obvious reasons, Guy and Gal are fabulous here. They're both going to basically invalidate the orb entirely, because all you're going to be doing is doing earth damage no matter who's attacking, because they're enchanted by earth, etc. Xander does actually do earth damage as well, but because he's on his own, and he's the only player, or the only character that's going to be dealing earth damage, you're only getting +2 on that, a turn count, and with a 5 turn count, you're going to need to be really careful how you go about doing that. So, call abilities can only get you so far as well, because let's face it, there aren't many characters with earth abilities on their calls. Xander's isn't one, it's a fire and dark ability, sadly, and if you've got Guy or Gal and their abilities to take with them, chances are they're probably already in your party. You can actually just brute force this particular fight. I've seen people use like Lightning Ramza and then either Dark Knight Cecil or Kurosame and just mash their way through it. So if you have a fully built Lightning and a fully built Ramza, and a fully built Ramza friend, you can just mash your way through this. Just be careful and make sure, for the love of God, you take Brother's Summon with you, because you're going to need that earth damage to count wherever it can. So they're also highly resistant to magic and range, just like Caius' Lost Chapter was, but let's be honest, if you're taking an Earth Enchanter, which you probably should be for this particular mission, you're not going to need to worry about that anyway. So like I said, it's quite a simple mission. So past that, that's pretty much everything they do. They just throw a lot of HP attacks at you. But as long as you're taking some sort of tank, some sort of healing, so if it's not Guy or Gal, then make sure you're running somebody like Gladio or Firion and Rude, something like that, that's going to be able to get you past it. But the simplicity of it is because the Lufenia Orb is so short in its timing, unless you're brute forcing it or taking an earth damage dealer, it's going to be a very difficult ride. So like I said, it's a very simple fight, it's a very straightforward fight, but that doesn't mean that it's easy. So now for the big question, of course, that you come to every one of my should you pull videos for this sort of question, should you pull for Guy? Now I think that Guy actually has a slightly different comparison point when it comes to his position within a party to Gao, and I actually liken him more to Desh in some ways, because while Desh has that, like, the Imperial Enchant and stuff like that, he does function differently. He actually functions very similarly in a lot of ways as well, because he reduces brave damage from specific types of damage, like physical or magical, whereas Guy is more like all-round. And obviously Desh has that lovely electric field that has the paralysis chance and stuff on it like that, but Guy just has like a flat HP and damage reduction at all times, and he locks to himself, which is nice. And there's a lot of things that I like about Guy that I liked about Desh, and I skipped out on Desh, and I kind of wish I hadn't. So I think that if you want a more passive character that kind of gives you the ability to run slightly different team compositions, like you want to bring a magic damage dealer to an event that resists magic, but you need to have like somebody that heals and has the Enchant Imperil. Having a character that Enchant Imperils and heals is really nice. We've seen it in Raijin, we've seen it in Desh. I think that that's actually, and obviously we've seen it in Gao as well, I think that that's actually a nice reason to go for Guy. And if you don't have access to an Earth Enchanter, of course, like Gao, then if you want somebody that's a little bit different to your Gladios, your Walls, your Barshes, etc., then Guy actually isn't bad. Like, he is actually very good. He's just does have a lot of similarities to another character that's within the roster that does ward a lot of players away from him. So like I said, if you do already have Gao, then they do actually have a lot of roles that are very similar within the party. They function differently. Like I said, Guy is more passive, Gao is more reactive, and like wants to deal damage after everything that the enemies do, and he works better with, say, Gladio than Guy does. Then you don't need to pull here, not really. And if you're only really pulling on here so that you can do Guy's Lufenia mission because you don't have an Earth Enchanter, Earth damage isn't massively like needed for quite some time, or like if ever really. So if you're pulling just to do Guy's Lufenia mission, then don't do it here, because you can skip out on one mission and it actually be fine. I think Guy is probably one of the safest sort of skips for a long while, but for those people that are pulling for him, and I probably will throw a few tickets at him because I've done, I'm not going to throw a lot, but a few tickets at him, because if I did happen to get him, I'd actually be pretty pleased about it. And then lastly, it's time for Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to make your voice heard and let everybody know whether you would or wouldn't pull on any given banner and why. Now, Guy, I'm not surprised by this at all. Guy's not particularly well liked by the community. I think Guy is somewhat of a very dull character by a lot of people's standards, and I can understand that. Like, I've been talked about him being very passive. He doesn't actually do an awful lot in his turns. He's just kind of there. And that is true of how he is, and it might make him appear boring to a lot of players. Now, in terms of the numbers, 75% of people, of the patrons that I asked, and a big thank you to all of you for casting your votes and comments once again, have said no, they're not going to be pulling on this banner at all. 22% of people said that they were going to use tickets, and just 3% of people said that they were going to use gems on this banner. So if we go into comments, Grayson Snyder here says, I'll be saving resources on this banner. I have Gao already, so unless I get his LD in the free pull, I won't be pulling here. Not to mention I have Auron built, and Sync isn't a viable character for current content. I agree with this for the vast majority of people. Like, if you have Gao, there isn't a huge amount of reason to pull for Guy. Like, I've been trying to kind of sell him as a useful unit, but there are a lot of factors against him. There are sort of characters out there that do a very similar thing to him, and his banner mates are kind of, yeah, at the best of it, at best. Norm's Kissan says, I'll be going in with tickets as I don't have Gao and can also do with another tank. We'll try and be reserved with pulls though, as there are better banners coming up. This is very true. All of Ultimecia's banners, not necessarily for Ultimecia herself, but all of the LDs that are coming in that batch are at least somewhat useful. You have Penelo, who is like Queen of the Framed buff. You have Jack, who is like the LD called Supreme. And then you have Hope and Kryl, who are like support, like magnets. They're all really strong characters, and Ultimecia ain't something to sniff at either. So this is a good time for you to be saving if you've got the ability to do so. Cobalt Zork says, He's just so beige. He's the margarine of characters, the Diet Coke of characters, so no. Guy will not be getting anything more than a free pull from me. I have Gao, so he's an easy skip for me on the Earth, Enchant, and Peril side, and there are better tanks and defensive options out there that I already have built. I mean, this comment is fantastic, by the way. Just saying, this comment is fantastic. But something I did want to point out as well is that if you do already have Gao, Gao's going to be getting his LD boards very soon, like alongside Onion Knight at the beginning of March. So Gao's got room for growth, and Guy's Lost Chapter has literally just come out in JP's side, and he hasn't had a rework or anything that I'm aware of. So there's that to bear in mind. If you don't want to pull for Guy, you will get another opportunity to pull for Gao not long after it. And then finally, Boopar Wiggum says, this is the first banner where I'm going all in on gems immediately. But I wouldn't suggest many people do the same. Let's bear in mind that Guy is this guy's profile picture, so if that needs to tell you anything. He's very replaceable with a ton of arguably better tanks. For me though, he's a fave, and it's gems for faves. Also, his model bears a striking resemblance to me, albeit in better shape, so for that reason, I have to have him. So that, like, if you like him, he's not going to do you badly. Like, he is a decent character. Is he going to break the mold? Is he going to, like, break the game? No, he's not. But he does have a lot of nice qualities about him, and I think that what I'm trying to do is kind of like give people reasons not to necessarily write him off, as opposed to just go all in and pull for him, because I don't think he's as bad as people make him out to be. So that's going to be all for today's Should You Pull video. Let me know in the comments below, obviously, whether you plan on pulling for Guy or not. Like I said earlier, I'll probably throw a few tickets at it, depending on how the free pull goes. If I get one of his rare pieces in the free pull, then I might be more inclined to spend some tickets on it. If I get nothing, then I'll probably just skip it. So let me know what you guys think as well. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications on any future videos I might be making. And I will see you on Friday for Guy's event in the morning for streaming. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys then. Take care. Bye bye.